So welcome. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Speaking, I'm Eric, and my
I'm Susan.
co-host Susan, and we're going to be talking to you today about confronting hard truths in marketing, but really we come at it from a couple different perspectives. I am a marketer by trade. Susan works with companies on their operations, and so it's not just about high level 40,000 foot marketing stuff. It's about how are we actually making things work in our organizations. A quick
Yeah, how do
favor,
we make it happen?
absolutely. And a quick favor we would like to ask for those of you who are able, we'd love to see your faces. If you're not able or not comfortable, if anybody is in the hot tub, we're totally cool with you leaving it off. But if you can, that would be great. It's really
Please,
nice being able to see people on these.
please don't turn it on if you're driving. Keep your eyes on the road.
Yes, exactly. Actually, I'm not sure that you should be doing this while you're driving anyway.
Yeah.
So, really quickly, let's do just a couple of introductions for you guys. Susan, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Susan Finema. I own Beyond the Chaos. We help small business owners get out of the day-to-day of their business operations so they can step back, look at the big picture, and make time to grow their business, or in some cases, just to get their lives back. So we're always focusing on process, the right software tools, the right people in the right seats doing the right things. That's us. Eric?
Awesome. And what about like your personal background?
Oh, my personal background. Okay, I'll share that. I have about 30 plus, I'm going to leave it at plus years of experience in operations. Pretty much been doing it my whole career, even starting with not realizing that's what I was doing. It just comes very naturally to me. Started Beyond the Chaos about 7 years ago after a long career working for other small business owners. So I've I've seen it up close and personal. I've seen the angst that business owners can go through. My dad's a business owner. My sister's a business owner. My best friend's a business owner. So I'm also blessed to be surrounded by people who actually said when I started my business, well, it took you long enough. As opposed to others who sometimes will say, what are you thinking? Why would you do that? So I bring a wealth of experience, and I know and understand the challenges that small business owners face.
Awesome. I'm Eric Wolf, and I am the founder of Astound, where we help growing businesses with marketing. We help them find their marketing breakthroughs, as we like to say. We work as a fractional marketing department with folks, and so there's a lot of mid-sized businesses, a lot of growing businesses that don't have that expertise on the inside, and so we come in and provide it. I've been doing this, so I started the company in 2006, and prior to that, I was a marketing director at a consumer products company, and I worked in a couple of other industries. But all in all, I've been doing this professionally for very nearly 25 years. I give talks. I have books. We're really passionate about helping people figure these things out and kind of understand what the marketing thing is and how they can embrace it rather than fight against it. And I'm also a part-time professor of marketing at Metro State University here in Denver. So that's me.
I guess I should mention my marketing background. I worked in an ad agency for 10 years. I wasn't a creative. I did no strategy, but I did the ops at an ad agency. So I have that tie in with Eric there too.
So, so Susan, I thought it'd be cool for us to have an icebreaker. Why is this topic? Why does this topic resonate with you? Why is this important to you?
I have seen so many small business owners suffer because they're not building a structure to make marketing happen in their business. They get busy and they think, oh, it's proactive. I don't need to do that right now. I can put that off. I can focus on what's right in front of me instead. And then they suffer from having no leads, from having no new clients. And now they're trying to deal with essentially emergency marketing. And it is frantic and they're terrified because they're losing their income. I have watched that happen. And so to me, confronting the hard truths and being able to build this into your business and build it into the structure that you're going to repeat regularly is inherent to running a successful business. What about you, Eric? Why are you so passionate
Um, for,
about it?
for, for me, and I'll answer it in the form of a story because and I told the story recently, and I think a couple of you might have been there the last time that I told the story. But when so I was a marketing director at a company made baby toys, had a really good run there. I'd been there for 5 years, and I realized it was time for me to do something different. And of course, I'd been, at that point in my career, I'd just been a practitioner of marketing, and I would see the way that I would butt heads with the management in the company, and that awful feeling of like that, the president of the company doesn't trust me like he should. I've got him. And I ended up, I wanted to leave, and I interviewed for a lot of positions, uh, with a lot of smaller companies that weren't really mature enough to hire somebody like me at that point. And I went to one of them, and I said to this person, like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a few weeks. I thought that we had hit it off really well when we did our interview. Um, I would really love to work with you, and I'm getting the feeling it's not going to happen as an employee. So what if I was your agency instead? And so in one very quick moment, I suddenly became both a practitioner of marketing for somebody else, which I already was, but also simultaneously the owner of a business, and in charge of being that executive that I had previously hated so much, um, in my own company that had just started. So I have seen how this works on both sides, and I have seen how even as a practitioner that I fall into the same traps as a lot of the business owners that we work with, because it's very natural, it's very easy to get frustrated, and so it's time to do things differently, and it's time to embrace the things that we're not aware of.
Yeah, for sure. So as we move into this, I think we want to also encourage everyone, if you have questions as we go, you can raise your hand or enter it in chat, and we will try to address them as we go, but we will definitely have time at the end.
Yeah, we're going to make sure that we have time at the end for Q&A. So what the definition of a hard truth is that thing that you don't want to accept, that maybe we're part of the problem, maybe we're not always hiring the wrong people, maybe we're not, maybe there is something here that we are fundamentally missing. And so we really want to encourage everybody to be honest, be vulnerable, and like I have already kind of said, like, even as the marketing practitioner, I know these things, and yet I still fall into the traps, and so it's important to recognize. So let's get started.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, Eric, this is your realm. And we know our first truth here is marketing does work. And if it doesn't, the flaw is in your approach. And Eric, I know you have some stuff to say about that.
Yes, and it's true. I can't tell you how many people I've come in contact with that say, well, oh well, I did this and I did this, and so marketing doesn't work for our company. And it's like, well, no, marketing does work. We need to recognize that the thing that you were doing in particular didn't work. I used to have back in the day, if you guys remember about, I don't know, 10 years ago, in any business magazine you got, there would be like a $150 free trial for Google AdWords, and they'd come in the mail, 150 bucks, 200 bucks, and people would come and say, you know what, we spent the 200 bucks on Google, and it just didn't do anything for us. So this whole marketing thing, it doesn't work. I've got a word that I like to use, which is called slactics, and I'll define that for you. It's essentially slactics are marketing tasks that have no discernible role in advancing the company's progress, revenue, growth, etc. They're things that we do because we think that if we check the box off the list that we're going to be doing um, that we're doing marketing work, and that's how we're going to get it done. But it's not the people that are lazy. It's not the fact that they're not working hard enough. It's the fact that we're choosing these sort of lazy things to do that aren't going to fundamentally move the needle for us. Um, if when people are lost with marketing, when people are saying like, well, I don't know where to start, and I don't want, what I always tell them to do is get to know your audience. One of the first and best roles for marketing is to be in that position of being the expert on your audience. Um, Susan, what have you seen in your clients where folks have just sort of barked up the wrong tree and given up, or that flawed approach?
I like your thing about throwing it on the wall. It's throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks, right? Because it's a spattering of marketing tactics that they're throwing out, hit or miss, or in a good Texas term, willy-nilly, and wondering why. Well, I posted on LinkedIn. Why do I not have 5,000 followers now?
Right.
Or I got a Facebook group, but nobody joined it. Or I was a guest on a podcast, but no one listened. They're doing the one thing is just not enough. You have to have a strategy around it. You have to have the right messaging. To your point, you definitely need to know who you're talking to. And you have to empathize with them so that they listen, essentially.
It's the number one thing. If a new customer for me, and just to use round numbers and make it easy, if a customer for me has a lifetime value of $50,000, so basically winning a customer means that I'm going to earn over the lifetime of that relationship $50,000 in gross profit. Um, I can take that shot. If I want to use a basketball analogy, I can take that shot from half court, and like they do with the college games, hey, make the shot, get $1,000. Well, what if I could take that shot from the 3-point line instead of half court? My chances of hitting it just went up. What if I could take it from the foul line? What if it could be a layup? The more that we get to know our customers, and the more that we actually are working towards meeting them where they are, that's where we're going to succeed. And I get the same $50,000 in lifetime value no matter where I take the shot from. Let's just do a little bit of extra work, and let's take a higher percentage shot. Let's build a machine that's going to do that for us.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes that spray and pray kind of attitude. And if something lands, it ends up that you're lucky if you're doing that instead of taking that targeted approach. And now you're actually also getting the client you want and not just some client.
And not the client that you luckily happened upon.
Right. The one you want. And that matters. That matters to how you are going to run your business and how it's going to make you comfortable in it.
Susan, I want to cue this one up for you to get us started. No one else can access the information that only exists in your head. This is one that we talked a lot about when we were chatting a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I see this so many times with small business owners is they have to do it all because they either can't or won't give up the information in their brain for someone else to help them. Um, it's really important when you're looking at marketing or actually any activity as a business owner is what really can only be handled by you. And when you start asking that question, it's amazing how fast you come to there's really not much that can only be handled by me. There are professionals that do it so much better than me. There are team members that can execute consistently so much better than me. But I have to tell them what I need. I have to tell them what I expect. I need to develop that system so they can do it. And I have to figure out how to get the concepts out of my head. If you're working with a great marketer, they know how to pull them out of your head. Up until 2018 or so, I was writing all my own blogs. And I wrote every 2 weeks. And then my company started growing. And I'm like, I can't keep this pace up. What do I do? Do I write less? Do I share less valuable information? Do I make it shorter? What do I do? And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe hire someone to do it instead of doing it yourself. The person walked me through, got my voice. And the first thing that went out, I'm like, this sounds exactly like me. And I've never written another one of our blogs. Sometimes they'll interview me if there is information they need to ask, but now they're doing it for me. And it's beautiful. So it can happen without you, but you have to be willing to give it up. That's one part of it for sure.
And one thing that I definitely talk a lot about when I'm talking to clients is that there are a lot of folks that think like, okay, I hired a marketing firm, I write the check every month, I'm good. The phones are going to light up. We're going to get 80 new emails a day in email. We're going to be crushing it because we're writing a check. And look, I know more about marketing than 9 out of 10 of my clients could ever hope to. Um, but they know more about their business than I could ever hope to. And of all the things that you can outsource writing, you can outsource marketing, you can outsource, but you can't outsource your own expertise. You can
Mm-hmm.
outsource your accounting, you can outsource your IT, but you can't outsource the the part of you that actually runs the business. And so keep those things in house, but figure out how to share them. That's the thing where you're going to make magic with your marketing people is where your expertise and their expertise meet, because they're gonna see things about your business that you never saw before, and you're going to teach them about things about your business, even if it's a business like we work with a lot of IT companies, but I am still very open to learning something new about that industry that I never knew before. My first client, the one that I mentioned at the start of this, that I started the agency for, was an IT client. We've been doing this for 17 years, but I can still learn more about IT, and I can still learn more about the flavor that somebody else puts on it. And that's going to allow me to be better. It's a loop that feeds itself.
Since I started my company as just me, Eric, you did too. It was just us,
Yes.
it's solo. A lot of our brand is surrounded by me because that's what we were selling at first. Over time, I've tried to step out of it and it becomes we instead of me. But part of our branding, we have a process document for our whole team to know, how do you talk like Susan talks? What are the phrases that I use? What are the terms that I prefer one over the other? So my team can even talk like me when they're talking to clients, to bring that branding into that. And that also helps any marketer I bring in to know how to turn the phrase just the way that I would say it. And so that makes it now a beyond the chaos brand instead of it having to be a Susan brand, which I think is really important as you grow.
I'm currently trying to teach ChatGPT to talk like me, so that I can more easily show other people.
It's
Right?
pretty
We've
cool.
got we've got we've got cool tools now that can help us with these things, so it's fun.
And getting that knowledge out of your head and in the hands of others is huge. Dropping those things down, letting yourself, proofreading is the last thing I have to let go of. And I'm working on that right now. I can't wait until that's gone. And it's so freeing when things are gone.
Isn't it nice?
It's so nice.
So let's talk about the next one. I think that Taylor Swift has a song about this. The CEO is almost always the bottleneck.
Yeah, it's so true. There is no glory. You don't get an award at the end for being the busiest person in your company. Nobody says woohoo and gives you a high five. Most people think business owners don't do anything. They just, sit around and the money flows in. No, all the business owners here know that's not how it works. But from the outside, that's how people think. But it turns out most of us are working too long, too hard, and not as smart as we should be. Um, we had a client who she was working 80 hours a week. She had to do everything. She couldn't trust her team or wouldn't trust her team. She fought against us putting processes into place to help her. Um, and so she's just going to run this cycle of failure. If she's not willing to change anything, she's going to keep, nothing's going to change, right? She's going to keep being that person that works 80 hours a week and can't trust any team member because she's not telling them what she expects. And this applies absolutely to marketing. You have to get your team on board. My virtual assistant is pretty much handling our monthly newsletter now. She puts it all together. She runs it by the marketer at the end, but we told her what we expected. And wow, she's doing a great job. I'm floored at how good she's 19 years old, by the way. um, I'm floored at how she's like, oh, let's do a theme. And she can pull all this stuff together. She's having fun with it. And I don't have to do it, but I have to empower them in order for that to happen. So anytime you feel like you're the one that has to do it, change that mindset and start figuring out who else on my team could help me. How do I get this out of my head? How do I make a system so that your team feels empowered to support you? And they love that.
The part about being empowered is a huge one, and in marketing specifically, we have a real problem where our people aren't empowered. There's a staggering stat that I use in just about every single presentation now. 80% of CEOs are dissatisfied or don't trust the people that are in charge of their marketing. And at the same time, 75% of marketers believe that they're not put in a position to actually help the company. And so we've got what appears to be a real power of a real problem of empowerment, where we've got people who are scared of an outcome, the executives, and they're sort of manifesting it by keeping everything inside and wasting all that energy. Just, you've got to give people a chance. You've got to align your goals. You've got to make sure that you're all playing for the same purpose. We've got to have a feedback cycle. It's really important that everybody on your team that you're thinking is going to be doing a job, you actually have to give them that job. You can't just think that if I say you're in charge of marketing now, that all of a sudden that's going to be the thing that that happens. Like, no, I've got to give you that job. I've got to tell you what you're allowed to do. I've got to set expectations. We want to grow top line revenue by 10% this year. So how do we do that? Help me find a way. And that's the and these are just a few ways that we can get CEOs to get out of the way and actually let their people shine
Well,
and
and
on.
I'll add on to that too. If you feel like your whole team can't do the things you need them to do, that's on you. You have either hired all the wrong people or you are not helping them to do what they are good at. It's one or the other, and it all falls back on you. So you're the bottleneck in that too.
Doesn't that suck?
It does.
Um, we're moving through these at a pretty good clip, so we're going to have a lot of time for questions, I think,
Yeah.
which is cool. So, process uh, process is crucial. And Susan, you said if you don't have a process, you're just a bunch of people running around and doing stuff.
Exactly.
So talk
I
to me
mean,
about that.
it's not even a business really if you don't have process. It's just a bunch of people doing whatever they think is best. It might not have anything to do with your goals. It might not have anything to do with the best way to make money or the best way to treat your team. Everybody's just doing their thing. And that is not a business. That's, you've just put a bunch of freelancers in a room essentially and told them to do something, do what you're good at. That doesn't pull things together. So with process, well, one, also, all of you who say you have a process, but it is not written down, you do not have a process. If it's in your head, it's not a process. It needs to be written down. So to do that, you have to identify what needs to be done, how everything fits together and flows, who's in charge and what are they in charge of, and then what can be simplified. Because as you start to pull all these things together, you will recognize that, okay, we're duplicating steps, or what if we just skip from here to here? What would be the harm? Why have we been doing that? One of the things I hear a lot is you ask why enough and you get to the bottom line of, oh, well, we've always done it that way. Okay, that is not okay. You need to have a real reason of why you're doing it. Absolutely, that step could be because the last time we didn't do it, the last time we didn't QA our software development package before it went out the door, the client got so mad that they fired us and didn't pay us the last chunk of money. Okay, good reason to have QA in your process, right? And if you're a
Hmm.
software developer, you know better than that anyway. But you know, growth hurts. And to grow, you have to put this in place, because this is how you, as the owner, get out of your own way and let other people start to do things. This works with marketing. What do you need done by when? I want a monthly newsletter to go out. I have a schedule with steps that repeat every month to make sure that we make that deadline and to make sure that is consistent and to make sure that we have a document that says how it's branded. It doesn't just miraculously happen because some random person put together something that they thought was cool. It's got to be something that's well thought through.
And the part about who's doing it and why they're doing it and what their actual authority level is super important. We run our company on EOS, and just if people want to raise their hands or not, who is there anybody else here that's using EOS at their business? Yeah. The most and at the beginning of the EOS process, you do those two big days with putting together the VTO. And you know what the most uncomfortable part of those two first days was probably putting together the accountability chart.
Mm-hmm.
That part where you sit down, you're like, okay, who is really in charge of what? It's not who reports to who. It's who actually has the authority and the accountability over certain tasks. And we wrote a process and got the look, but we were doing this with another company, and we've got part of our process is sort of a similar thing where we say, hey, these are roles that need to be kind of assigned in your organization. We need people to be in charge of certain things when it comes to marketing. We need somebody to be the decision maker. We need somebody that's going to print to be the project manager. Essentially, we need somebody that's going to be responsible for feeding the team with financial data. We need somebody who is going to be the market research lead. We need somebody who's going to be the creative lead. We need somebody who's going to be the sales expert. Who's reporting those interactions back with real customers when we're actually going out to meetings. Who's taking that on from the sales team. Who's the product or service expert. And that makes people really, really uncomfortable to have to nail that down and actually put somebody's name next to it and say, okay, that's my job. I'm going to be the person that's in charge of having a market research plan and putting that into action.
And now
It's
somebody has to hold you accountable, right? And if it's not you, you should be holding that team member accountable. That's what they're here for. And
exactly.
that's really hard if you don't have a process written. You want to make sure that the process is ongoing. It changes and evolves as your business changes and evolves. And there are some great ways to coach to that too. So if you have a failure, you use the process as the excuse to have the conversation. Where did we go wrong in the process? So much better approach than you did it all wrong. You're bad, right? And now you can work with them to fix the process. You'll have a better outcome next time, probably as well.
Absolutely. And all of these things are the accountability is important, the process is important. And whenever you catch somebody saying, oh, but we'll just make the decisions together.
Yeah, that's not great. And I think in order to get your tactics executed, you have to have the processes in place. And I'm a firm believer in repeating templates. So if you're, always doing your newsletter, then all those steps need to be in there. We have a client who has great ideas, great marketing ideas, but nothing ever happens. They don't ever get done. And so you have to have those tactics put down in a structured way in a process in order for the marketing to come to life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm being told that it's time to move on. I am being gently nudged. So let's talk about the fifth one. Um, you might not like it, but it still has to get done. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Um, and for me, I think that there's a real pain when it comes down to it, and there's a part of your business that you fundamentally don't like dealing with. For me, I fundamentally really struggle with having to be. I'm sort of backfilling the role of being our chief financial officer. We also have a fractional CFO, but I'm still in charge of that, and that makes me very uncomfortable because I feel like I'm terrible with money, and it's not really the best place for a business owner to be. But um, but it still has to get done, and I have to find ways to make myself okay with bringing the people on that are going to support me, that that are going to help me get this done, even though I don't like it. If you don't like it, you still have to do it. And unfortunately, a lot of people feel that way about marketing.
Mhm.
And there is one area in particular that I can tell you for sure that since day one we have struggled with in dealing with clients is many people are intimidated by the process of writing.
Yes.
Writing is something that comes very natural to some, but it's something that a lot of people are very sort of viscerally uncomfortable with. And for since the since the dawn of this business, one of the hardest things has been getting content out of clients when they're responsible for that. Now, when we're responsible for that, it gets a little bit easier. But you've got to make the decision that you're going to make us responsible for that. But we had a client once, and this is no joke or exaggeration. He was on a 1 year contract with us, and we were trying to get his website launched before the end of the contract. He wanted a new website, and we were trying to get the website launched before the end of the contract so that we could get so that if we didn't renew, that we would be leaving him in a really good place. And we said, Jim, his name's not Jim, protecting the innocent. Jim, you owe us basically 5 paragraphs of content. And if we can get those 5 paragraphs, the website can go up within a week. All we need is it's an hour of work. If you can just put together these 5 short paragraphs, we've got everything we need. The site can go up and everything is going to be great. Jim openly refused to do that work. And we need for the Jims in our lives to be truthful about what they're capable of, and to say, hey, I'm not, I can't do this. How can we get it done? It still needs to get done.
I love that your client was at least direct and clear. I'm not doing it, you know?
And the tragedy of it was that he actually didn't get his website.
That can
It was
happen.
actually that's what it was worth to him to not do it, was to basically not have a website.
I think that another part of this that's important is if you hate doing it, you're probably also not good at it. So empower the right person and avoid. Oh, yeah, Roger, raise your
What,
hand.
was Jim not willing to sit for an interview with you so that you could write the content?
We were also not able to secure that time with him.
Got it.
It literally was I'm not participating, and we had already actually
Mm,
at that point helped him with a lot of the writing. It wasn't part of our scope, but we helped him with it anyway. But the whatever it was, these last few bits just would not get done, and we ended up being in a position where our contract was up and we had to leave, and it was not ideal, and it's not something that we like to do, but of course we're also a business and we can't work for free. But but yeah, he the fact that he was unable to do it and unable to say, I will allow you to do it for me, or I will allow you to cut those pages from the website, the 2 pages that are missing content. Let's just not launch them. Couldn't make either of those decisions.
Wow.
And that's an extreme example, but it's a real example of what happens to people when they get locked up in the things that they don't like to do, and they sort of opt out. And opting out is just generally not the right decision.
Well, I think that kind of brings us to our last thing here too, which is procrastination can sometimes be wisdom.
Yeah, this came from that from that book that Susan, you encouraged me to read, and I did. Um, uh, uh, Not How, but Who. Is that what it's called?
Who, not how.
Who, Not How.
Yeah, by Dan
Um,
Sullivan.
and the premise of the book is that when you're sitting around thinking like, how am I going to get this done? How can I do this? This isn't my thing. You shouldn't be asking yourself how, because once you say how, you're sort of locked up in this cycle of trying to figure everything out and doing all these things that you're uncomfortable with, and instead you should be asking, well, who can solve this problem for me? I don't know if I'm looking at my board and I'm like, oh my God, I've got so much stuff going on. How am I going to get this stuff done? That's not the right question. The question is who can help me with that? Susan's an operations expert. Maybe Susan can give me some insight on getting this done. And if she's not the right who to actually do it, maybe she can say, you know what, talk to this person. They can take this off your plate.
I've even done that with my team where I'll be like, oh, one of the things we like to do is be well versed in the software that we recommend to our clients. We recommend a lot of SaaS software. And so when a partner software asks us to come to hey, this is what's up and coming for the software, I've always felt like I had to go until it dawned on me, wait, I have a whole team of people who need to know this. Somebody else go to this and tell us what they said. It was so eye-opening to just change that mindset of, wait, it doesn't have to be me. I can spend my time more usefully by growing the business or developing relationships with people. They can bring the facts back.
And there was this quote from the book that I really grabbed onto, which was procrastination is wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that if you're procrastinating on something, and it's something easy. I mean, how many times do we procrastinate on something that would only take us 20-30 minutes to get done? And it just sits on the list and it sits on the list. That's wisdom. That's actually our brains telling us we're not the right person to do this job.
Or it's not important enough to do it all. Or maybe you didn't break it down into small enough parts to actually be able to tackle it. So there's a lot of wisdom in procrastination.
And for the purpose of marketing, there's a lot of wisdom in understanding that you as an executive were not, we grow up in this kind of like Steve Jobs world where we've got this prototype of what an entrepreneur is, and this idea that we should be that. And Steve Jobs was an absolute marketing genius. And he did things that other people can't do just because that's just the way that he was made. But we can't do that. And we make a lot of bad decisions based on the fact that we're trying to be Steve Jobs, and we sort of think that like, oh no, I'm the marketing expert at my company because that's what the entrepreneur does. But in reality, what we end up doing is procrastinating on the real work, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, and not bringing in the people who can do it for us.
Yep, definitely.
So on that note, we'd love to open it up for questions, and hear what you guys are thinking. If anybody wants to share a pain, a story, a problem,
Your hard truth. What's yours
your
that you're
hard
dealing
truth.
with?
Yeah, I've got a quick question. It's Pete. Susan, good to see you again. Eric, thanks for you and Susan putting this together. I'm outsourced VP of sales. I've done marketing and run sales marketing departments, but it's interesting. It's something I really didn't enjoy. I understand it, and I think there's a synergy between sales and marketing. And when you look at your number three, where there's always bottlenecks, and it's usually the CEO, there's always a budget that they have to work with. And I've got some clients now, one in particular that, you know, they're really investing nothing in marketing right now. And my thing is, I think they need lead generation, but I think lead generation is kind of a separate bucket. But if you start doing this lead generation, they're going to start investigating the company. You've got to have a great website. You've got to have good content out there. And then, you know, you give it to sales and they close the deal and hopefully things move forward. So how do you prioritize all that? Because, you know, small businesses, they may not even have allocated money towards marketing. This one particular client I'm thinking of has not, but they really need to. So how do you approach that from when you put your marketing hat on?
Yeah, so a few things. So first of all, on the topic of budgeting, um, really the way that we try to look at it is so sales and marketing is the same process. They're just different parts, and sales is really good at part of it. Marketing is really good at part of it, and we're really bad at doing each other's jobs. Marketing is really great at the part where communications is one to many. The marketer is the person that's standing at the front of the auditorium and talking to 1,000 people at once. The salesperson is really great at that one-to-one communication. You know, they're the person that you want mingling at the cocktail hour after the auditorium part is done. And so there's a process that gets you there, and there's a handoff. There's a point at which one-to-many communication stops being effective, and where one-to-one communications is going to take you the rest of the way. And so sales and marketing are part of the same process. And so the way that we really look at it is that there's a cost of acquisition for every client that we get, every new customer, and that should be shared by sales and marketing, because it takes both to make that journey happen. And so what we do is we look at, in terms of then how do you spend that money, you know. So if it takes me, you know, $10,000 to get a client, and I want 20 new clients this year, then that means that my budget should be what, $200,000, round numbers. But how am I going to spend that $200,000? Well, let's look at the parts of and we use a hill instead of a funnel, but basically there's stages. There's the part where you're understanding the marketplace. There's awareness. There's the part where people make that connection. Typically that'll be the point where they're, you know, maybe on your website, or they're recognizing you as a brand in the space. They're you know, ultimately some of those people become opportunities. Some of them will get to be sold to. Some of them will then become customers, and we'll worry about retaining them. And so really what we encourage people to do is be honest and look at all the parts in the process that you're weakest at, and you focus on the things that are closest to the bottom of the hill. Because if we're only good at doing the top of the hill stuff, that's fantastic, but we're never going to get there because we're so lousy at the stuff. So we start bottom up is generally how I prioritize.
I think another part of this too is to simplify for the small business owner. Simplify what you're selling. You don't need a 50-page website. Maybe you could start with a really nice homepage that explained the service that you're offering. And maybe you have to start with one service or a 3-tiered service, or something that is more simple than we sell everything to everyone. That is going to take a lot of money. but selling the right thing to the right person doesn't take nearly as much money.
How did we do, Pete?
Great. Sorry, my internet went out just for like a second or two. I think that was great. The only thing I didn't hear was how do you prioritize lead generation versus
Oh,
marketing?
so okay, so excuse me. Um, so generally speaking, what I like to do is I want to do lead generation activities. They're going to work better if and you know, so lead generation, that's the middle of the hill. Lead generation it's really good to experiment with that. Where lead generation is really going to take off is at the point where you're doing the stuff closer to the bottom of the hill, because essentially we're making the lead generation job easier as we go. We're blazing that trail for folks. And so I actually will a lot of times start by experimenting with lead generation to sort of see what's working and where the right levers are, and then I'll use that information to build out what I want my bigger message to be. And so I'll do a little bit, and then I'll move back down to the website, the other materials, because I don't want to overinvest in that stuff until I've got a really clear picture as to what's going to work, because I want to spend that money wisely. And so basically I'll do that, and then I'll move down, and then everything just is about getting people to the top of the hill.
So essentially sussing out the messaging that's working. Is that
Our tools right now, and especially when we get into things like lead generation, we're talking a lot about things like email marketing. We're talking about Google AdWords. We're talking about, and by the way, with AI, we're seeing a lot of people having a lot more success on Bing since they changed their platform. But we're usually talking about a lot of those types of activities. And the really great thing about them is that they're really easy to experiment with. It's really easy to learn from them. It's really easy to throw things up there, you know, in a very kind of strategic way and say, hey, is it this or is it this? And we can learn a lot from that. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. But yeah, that's what I like to do. Is I like to do that and market research at the same time. And then I like to use that to feed the rest of the messaging and figure out what the rest of sort of that, you know, that megaphone looks like that I'm going to use.
Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Who else has something? Man, you guys are quiet.
I know.
I'd like to jump in. I maybe a pivot off of what Pete brought in, which I think is really good. And I gotta ask the question: do you think it's a competition for the same dollars between operations and marketing? Are we and as a leader, how are you going to make that choice? You know, do you build it and they'll come, or do you? You know, you have the crowd waiting outside, and then you're trying to fulfill. You know, each one, it kind of almost seems in opposition, and yet we know that it's crucial that they come together.
You know,
I'm curious what you think about that.
That's a great question. I get asked that a lot. You know, what should we do first? Do we fix our sales process? Do we fix our ops back end, our delivery? If you don't have something that you can deliver to a client, you are screwing up your marketing on the other end. So if you sell somebody something, you can't deliver it, now you have negative marketing out there. So you have to get those ops set up that you can actually deliver what you're promising. You can work it simultaneously, but you don't want to overload your fulfillment, for lack of a better word, your fulfillment area with a ton of leads coming in from marketing that you can't fulfill, because that will have the opposite effect by the time they start reviewing you and everything else. Now, of course, I'm saying that as an ops person, so Eric might have a different opinion.
I think that you really can't. So I would say that the classic kind of tug of war is that people think, well, I'm investing in operations, and that means that I'm investing in basically scale and profit, and that is kind of at odds with the idea that I'm investing in marketing and sales, because that's investing in revenue. And so it is sort of a tug of war, and somebody ends up actually being the rope, and that's not fun. So from my perspective, I think that it's really necessary. I agree with Susan. I think that you really can't have a functional sales and marketing uh, operation if the rest of the business isn't functioning at a high level.
But let's face it, I mean, it can't be an either or.
You have
That's
to
like
do
saying,
both.
do I need to manage my finances to make a profit, or do I need to take care of my customer, or do I need to take care of my team? You're the business owner. You got to do all of it. And so you're going to have to figure out how what's the biggest pain point right now? What's the, what can I put some money towards? You have to figure it out. That's why you get paid the big bucks, right?
We are being played off of the stage to keep everybody on time. The music is going in the background. I know you guys can't hear it. I'm happy to hang out for a few minutes if there are more questions, but really quickly, before we let people go, Susan, what's the best way for folks to work with you?
Go to my website, beyondthechaos.biz/ebook, and you will get a free ebook that talks about 3 ways to get you out of the day-to-day in your business. And if you are an overwhelmed business owner and you're like, I don't have time for an ebook, just email me and we can talk. But that contact information is on that page too. But
we've got the link there for you. And then, and for us, we are happy to, if anybody is interested in learning about how we approach marketing, email me. I'd be happy to send you a book and get you guys the good stuff. And
it's really good.
It's the best way to understand sort of all of the crazy things that are in my head and laid out in an easy to digest way. So there's that. And if you're looking to solve a problem, if there's something that's just like absolutely like eating you up, email me. I'm happy to do a half-hour Zoom and just talk.
Thank you so much. Well done.
Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to hang for
I'll
any
hang
last
too.
questions. Oh,
Are
thanks.
you still taking questions?
We'll take them. We have a few minutes. We can stick around.
Okay. So the question that I have, for a small business that's still on the ground up, that's not out yet, what would be the basic marketing tools they need, bedside or website?
Tell me a little bit about the business.
It's a photo booth. It's a photo booth business.
Like, where do you? So you're renting photo booths?
Yes. So we will go to the event if someone need a photo booth, and then we'll be there with the equipment as the people are taking pictures. So I know my husband is working on the website, as far as the picture, what we offer as far as services. So what would be the next marketing thing we will need? Of course, I know I have to go to those events, like those wedding events, like anything they're doing in Dallas, I probably need to subscribe just to get the word out. But what other thing I can do?
So I think that you could build where I would look to maybe build a lot of content and to to just sort of share the message. Pinterest,
Pinterest. Okay.
huge in the wedding industry, and then Instagram.
Pinterest and Instagram. Okay.
And you can advertise on both of those platforms as well.
Okay.
And so as people are, because people are using those tools to really get, they're always looking for ideas. They're always looking for fun stuff. Photo booths are unquestionably fun. And so you've got to build that vibe around it. And
Okay.
you can definitely reach people on those platforms.
Okay. Thank you. I did not thought about Pinterest and Instagram. Thank you.
Anybody else that stuck around have any questions?
Cool.
All right.
Well, we'll go
Bye-bye.
ahead and wrap up, but thank everybody. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time or we'll do something. I don't know. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.